discussion. Senator Wiger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me strongly reaffirm the Senate DFL's enthusiastic support for parental involvement. Parents are the primary teacher, that teachers welcome and embrace the parents to be involved in the classroom. And it's going on as we speak throughout Minnesota. Would Senator Gazelka please yield?
Senator Gazelka will yield. Senator Wiger.
Senator Gazelka, there are 325 school districts, 180 charters, over 2,100 classrooms. Can you tell me, in one school or one classroom, where parents don't have a right to be involved in the curriculum or instruction or having access to materials?
Senator Gazelka.
And excuse me, Mr. President, I also, when I went, I know this was a big deal, and you mentioned you've been traveling the state, and I looked at the website, and you're quoted on your caucus website as saying, unfortunately, Minnesota parents are being shut out of the classroom by teachers. By teachers, they're being shut out of the classroom and administrative bureaucrats who think they know best. Senator Gazelka, please be specific as to which district, which classroom we're talking about.
Senator Gazelka.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Wiger, well, I got letters from parents in Orono, Waconia, Sartell, Foley, St. Michael's, Minnetonka, and more. And that's just being out and about and talking to parents where they are frustrated. And we know that we want parents involved. I mean, I think that's what we're all talking about. I'm glad that, Senator Wiger, that you think that's a good idea. The goal of this bill is to create a cooperative relationship between the parents, the teachers, and their school board for the success of their kids. And so if you have 22,000 children leaving the public school because their parents have said, we don't feel like our voice is being heard, that should get all of our attention. And so that's what this bill is about. It's not changing the law. It's just that the parents, we need to have a notice that they have the curriculum available to them and that it needs to be free of charge for them.
Senator Wiger.
Yes, Mr. President, I would agree that there's a lot of frustration out there. Frustration on lack of resources for schools. More on that later. Senator Gazelka, would you continue to yield?
He will. Senator Wiger.
Senator Gazelka, in committee, I asked whether you had consulted with the largest parent organization in Minnesota, the Minnesota PTA, which has over 200 chapters in the state and has been here for 101 years. Senator Gazelka, have you, since the hearing, had a chance to consult with the Minnesota PTA?
Senator Gazelka.
Mr. President, Senator Wiger, as I said then, I went directly to the parents. I've talked and been around hundreds and hundreds of parents that have expressed frustration. And as I told you in committee, if you're not listening to the parents and the 22,000 kids that have left the public school, you better be listening. And I'm trying to move towards a place of making the public schools more successful, and that means listening to the parents. And it may be different in Minneapolis and St. Paul than it is in Roseau, but if the parents feel like their voice is not being heard, then I'm telling you their voice is not being heard.
Senator Wiger.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Senator Gazelka, and maybe more on Roseau later, but you mentioned you're listening to the parents. Senator Gazelka, do you feel the Minnesota PTA is a representative organization of parents?
Mr. President,
Senator Gazelka.
Senator Wiger, I'm not here to say one way or the other the PTA. I respect what they're doing. I respect what the teachers are doing, the school administrators, all of the people involved in our kids' educations, but listening directly to parents around the state gives me a good feel for what's going on. Why are 22,000 students no longer part of the public school? That is the question I think you need to ask, and that comes from listening to parents that are frustrated that there are different things being taught that they didn't know about, and had they known about, they would have taken what our statute says and given a different alternative form of education of which the parents would have cooperated with the school district and found something that they would teach at their expense. And that's all we're asking here, Senator Wiger, is that we have an opportunity for parents to have their voice being heard and know what's going on in the classroom.
Senator Wiger.
Yes, Mr. President, there is that opportunity now in the parental curriculum review. There are several existing pathways for involvement, and I'd like to shed light on what the Minnesota Parent-Teacher Association says, because I hadn't heard testimony in committee, and I contacted them. There's a letter, I believe it's been distributed, and I believe that the largest parent organization their position should be on the record. The mission of the PTA is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. What are we hearing from Minnesota PTA members? Minnesota parents expect that their children will learn in a school that welcomes all students, that provides a high-quality education, that engages with and is accountable to all parents and families. Learning during the pandemic provided parents and families new ways to see their children's education up close and personal, to be immersed in it in a way that they never were before. Minnesota PTA members are using the power of their voices to speak up, to hold our schools and districts and state and federal decision makers accountable for meeting our expectations. And parents and families want our public schools to have the resources, I emphasize the resources they need to meet the individual needs of our diverse students across the state. Minnesota PTA cannot support any of the proposed Parents' Bill of Rights in their current form. Senate File 2575, for example, provides no better language than what already exists, no better language than what already exists in Minnesota law to arm parents with information and remedies regarding their child's education and the power to act on making education better for all students. In a review, and this is the PTA who their board met over the weekend, in our review of existing Minnesota law, we found more than 44 existing provisions that require parents and families have access to review the content of instructional materials, and if they object, to make reasonable arrangements for alternative instruction, to require parent participation in developing their individual students' education plans, policies that require specific notices to parents, that require parent and family members on district and school advisory committees, require district and school plans for parent and family engagement, policies in place now that delineate the rights of parents and families at hearings and mediation regarding their children, model policies that reflect these laws and guide their implementation in Minnesota districts and schools mention these requirements more than 33 times. There's no evidence that Senate File 2575 and 2909 would do anything to improve the implementation. They wouldn't do anything to improve the implementation of the multiple provisions that already exist. Many of our Minnesota PTA members are actively engaged in existing pathways and have provided important perspectives in schools and districts across the state. Nothing should divert district, school, and parent focus away from existing efforts to implement these important existing opportunities for parent engagement, empowerment, and advocacy. This is the point of view of the largest parent organization in the state. We had testimony in committee as well from teachers, and one teacher shared, and this is a teacher in the Farmington district, Kendra Kaduff, a special ed teacher, a reading specialist for 20 years. Referring to this bill, The state of Minnesota already has comprehensive supports for parents, cites one of the statutes. It provides for parental curriculum review and for alternative education in the event that a parent has a problem with materials. The bill is a solution in search of a problem, said the special ed teacher. Parents already have statutory protections in place, as well as informal ones. Parents reach out proactively to teachers when they have concerns about curriculum, and teachers must modify lesson plans as needed. The bill is unnecessary. Senator Gazelka, you cited the School Boards Association and other groups, and I'm not sure if it was implied that they were supportive of this. Is there concerns, et cetera? Yeah, absolutely. We share those, and we have many prospective ways to improve on the frustration. But for the record, the Minnesota School Boards Association, the AMSD Association of Metro School Districts, and the Association of School Administrators, in a letter, which is also distributed, they said, we should avoid time-consuming and costly new mandates. Can't use a prop, okay. There are many proposals, model policies that have been adopted. And I have them here, and they were provided in committee. And Senator Gazelka, for those districts, and you said Orono, and if there's a member of the school board, and I think they should be, to tell their concerns. There are avenues, pathways, as shared by the PTA. And if it's not working, we have remedies in place. Some, again, have questioned the need for this, and they have said, let's focus on the real needs that parents are asking for, additional resources to address lower class size, to address special education, which has an enormous public crossover subsidy, and we need to take care of that. Parents are talking about a number of items. We'll talk more on that later, but the PTA has made that clear, and if you look further on their letter, they suggest a number of things on policy, and more resources are needed for our schools. That's what parents want. Thank you.
Before we continue, just